Good evening, everyone. It's great to have you here with us this evening. I'm Karen Laughlin with ECAC, and I'd like to give our interpreter a minute to say something for our Spanish-speaking guests.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. This is Murtado, the Spanish interpreter. We're here with Angie, and we're going to be providing interpretation into Spanish. It will be, bear with me a moment while I make this announcement in Spanish. Muy bienvenidos a todos y todas. Estamos prontos a comenzar ya la conferencia. Por favor, para conectarse al canal, para escuchar todo en español, vayan a la parte de abajo donde hay un globito, elijan español y están listos para empezar. Si se conectan desde una tableta o desde un celular inteligente, vayan a los 3 punticos, seleccionen interpretación del idioma, luego español, luego terminado y están listos para empezar con la interpretación. Más adelante voy a poner estas instrucciones en el chat si se me es posible. Muchas gracias y bienvenidos. Thank you very much and have a great meeting. Back to you, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you. So exciting because we just passed or got up to 60 attendees. So happy to have so many people. This is such an important topic. We're waiting for just a couple more things to happen as we get ourselves set up. If you would like to use chat to introduce yourself, let us know where you're from. Sometimes it's really fun to see that and to know whose company you're sort of invisibly in. And the age of the young person, young adult that you're here to hear more about. If you're here as a parent or as a professional in a support role, just anything you'd like to start sharing in the chat so we have a little sense of who we are. If you have a burning thing that you really hope we'll cover and you'd like to just put a word or two about that in there, that would be great. So Beth, thank you for getting us going. She has an 18-year-old. I'm only reading these because some folks may not, they may be hearing but not reading them themselves for any reason.
Hey, Karen.
Parent of a 20-year-old. Yeah.
Can you tell me what you're looking at? Because I can't get to my control. So do you have the presentation showing?
I do not. Still looking at the squares where we are looking at you and me.
Okay.
And I'm looking at chat. Somebody heading to high school next year. Great time to be getting ahead of things with when your children are in middle school, early high school. It's great to see you here. We have some folks in the profession, supporting professions. It's wonderful. Very good. 15-year-old son. Very good. Thank you for sharing. Looks like we're from all over the place too. That's great. The webinar is not as personal as in-person meetings, but it allows us to have, include you from wherever you are in North Carolina. Sometimes we even get some people from out of state. We have a 17-year-old young person here with his mother. That's great. We're so happy to have you. All right. All right, very good. This is really helpful to get a feel for who you are. I'll go ahead and introduce myself a little more while Lorraine gets us situated. I've been with ECAC. I live in the Wilmington area. I've been in, kind of representing the eastern part of the state for somewhere between 9 and 10 years. It gets a little complicated, but I am really excited to be here with you on this particular topic because I know for a fact that adulthood does happen. When I started with ECAC, my daughter Carly was a teenager, a younger teenager, and she's now 25, and she's kind of getting herself focused and on track and living independently right now. Kind of comes and goes. She was back here with us for a while. Now she's out in the community again. She's attending community college, and she discovered a passion for working with other special needs kids in high school. So that was a beautiful thing that happened for her in high school. So I love this topic because, like I said, I've lived it, continue to live it. So thank you for being here. We are looking at the presentation, Doreen, at least I am, and it is not looking exactly perfect, but it will work for us.
Yeah, in a way, if that little box stays there, it may not, that's better than not having that
Yeah.
at all, because I couldn't
Yeah.
find my share to switch over to the videos and stuff.
Right. Yeah, we
So-
have a little bit of a Zoom challenge when we want to use video, and video is such a wonderful tool, but it does sometimes cause these black rectangles to show. So if you're seeing that, we're sorry, but please do bear with it. We think it'll be well worth it. And I think we're ready to go. I've introduced myself. You want to go ahead, Doreen, from here?
All righty. Well, my name is Doreen Bird. I'm a parent educator with ECAC. And I'm also the parent of 2 adult children who have learning disabilities and ADHD that they happen to inherit from me. So somewhere during the course of our presentation, my train of thought may get derailed, and just bear with me if that happens. But as Karen said, we know this life inside and out to some degree. But let's go ahead and tell you a little bit about our organization, just in case you're new to ECAC. We are a private nonprofit organization, and our commitment is to improving the lives and education of all children, but we do have a special emphasis on children with disabilities and special health care needs. ECAC has a number of different programs, but what we're most known for is our role as North Carolina's Parent Training and Information Center, and that's what brings us here today. We do get a grant that comes through the federal special education law to serve in that role. And our primary function is to make sure that parents have the information and skills that they need to effectively advocate for their own children. There's a counterpart to us in every state, and some of the largest states have more than one Parent Training Information Center. But we also have other programs. We are partners with the North Carolina Deaf Blind Project, along with the Department of Public Instruction and East Carolina University. And that project works with families and individuals who have a combination of vision and hearing impairments. You know, they don't have to be totally deaf or totally blind, but just having impairments in both of those key sensory areas creates some very unique challenges. And so there's a whole source of support designed around those particular families. We're also partners in the North Carolina State Improvement Project, which is largely a professional development effort, but we also, our role is to make sure that there's information going out to families that are targeting the same content areas. So if they focus on behavior or focus on reading, that there's also, you know, materials and efforts to inform parents as well, so they can learn alongside the teachers and educators. We work with the North Carolina Infant Toddler Program, which has services for children birth up until age 3. To try to provide that early intervention to get them on the right foot. As I mentioned, every state has a Parent Training Information Center, so the country is carved into regions, and we actually provide technical assistance to a multi-state region called Region B, and is it 17 centers across X number of states? I don't know the exact number, but I believe we go from Virginia down to Florida and over to Arkansas. So it covers quite an area there. And one of our relatively new projects actually come back to us was the Family to Family Health Information Center. And that one provides information to families of children who have special health care needs. So if they're having issues or questions with insurance or trying to access health care, that kind of thing, then that project is designed to meet those needs. And we have recently started what we call our STAR transition program to provide pre-employment transition services. We're going to talk a little bit more about what those services are later on in the presentation, but that's something that we're doing to help support the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation's responsibility, really, to serve youth while they're still in school. And start introducing those services to prepare them for employment and job career selection and all that kind of wonderful stuff. And we're doing ours virtually, so which means that people from all over the state can participate. So if you want more information about that program, just contact our office and we'll be happy to share that. And, again, our focus is parent education and support, and all of the parent educators are parents of kids with special needs ourselves. So we are very much a parent-run organization, pretty much top to bottom. This gives you a sampling of some of the services that we do offer. We provide individual assistance to families, and actually professionals contact us as well with questions that they want answers to or situations that they need assistance with. And that takes whatever form is required. Sometimes a simple answer and people disappear, and some folks need more intensive support. We do group trainings and webinars, such as we're doing here today, on a variety of topics relevant to special education and individuals that have disabilities. We've got some recorded videos on a YouTube channel that you're more than welcome to check out. We do leadership training for parents as well as youth. I mentioned the pre-employment transition services. We do professional development and training. Try to focus on and support schools that are trying to improve their family engagement efforts. And a lot of times we'll get questions about things that really aren't, centered around education per se, or something that we particularly deal with. So then we do try to direct people to where they can get those needs met. So information referral is one of our services as well. And, at the end of the day, what we would like to see happen out there is that systems are fair and equitable, and they're responsive to individuals that need those services and supports. So we do some system level advocacy as well. Our objectives for today is hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll be able to briefly describe the IDEA transition requirements, IDEA being our federal special education law. Describe how students' post-secondary goals should be influencing the IEP when they're transition age. Explain what happens when kids turn 18 and how that impacts their rights and the rights of their parents. And we'll mention some key resources for youth as they're transitioning into adulthood. All right, the centerpiece of all this is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Our federal special education law goes all the way up through age 21. And part of its purpose, when you look at the definition of why the law exists, states that it's there to make sure that folks have available a free, appropriate public education. Yes, it's going to have special education and related services, but that last part is what's really important here, is that it prepares them for further education, employment, and independent living. They took great pains to make it clear that special education was not just designed to keep kids occupied for 13 years. It's supposed to help prepare them for their life. And so, that thought needs to be in the back of mind or front of mind, as the case may be, throughout their education, is that we're going somewhere with this. It's not just about trying to get from 1 week to the next or 1 year to the next. It's how are these things leading to this young person having a better quality of life. That commitment becomes concrete when the young people become 14, or the IEP that's in place when they turn 14. At that point, the IEP has to include a statement it has some basic transition components. And actually, if you have a younger child, you will notice that there's probably still a transition section showing on your child's IEP. It'll just be marked not applicable. But that component will get filled in, and it'll indicate information that's based on the child's needs and preferences, reflect the course of study, and so forth. So that at least gets documented in terms of what are we doing in terms of planning for that transition and putting that front and center. Now that planning becomes a lot more detailed and more concrete when they hit 16. Now again, these things can start earlier, but no later than the IEP that's in place when a student turns 16. We're going to have to include their post-secondary goals, and they need to be written in a way that's measurable. So we're talking about what that student is interested in doing after they get out of school, as far as continued training or education, employment, their independent living skills. And then what kind of services are going to be needed to assist them to reach those goals? And if there's going to be other agencies involved and other, community resources, those also get documented in that transition section at that point. So again, our focus is special education. And so that there are some very specific requirements here, but when we think about really the task of trying to prepare young people for adulthood, it's about more than just what happens at school. And it's not just special education. The job of a parent isn't to raise a child. Our job is to raise adults. Ultimately, we're going to spend part of their, lives as children, but we're trying to get them ready all along the way for eventually becoming adults and to be as independent as they can be. And, obviously when children are younger, parents are making pretty much all the decisions for them, but, we want to try to allow them to become more independent and more in control of their own lives as they grow older. So trying to prepare kids for adulthood starts when they're young. You want to, offer them as much control as possible, giving them age appropriate choices. So for a young child, you may, lay out a couple of outfits and ask them which one they want to wear. You want to encourage independence whenever you can. Ask them their opinion because they need to recognize that their thoughts matter and their opinions matter. Exposing them to a variety of different situations so they can learn social skills and how to engage with different kinds of people, how to handle different situations, and become more comfortable and feel more confident, when they're in different places. If they are very sheltered, then they are going to become uncomfortable and uneasy and anxious, when they find themselves in some place unfamiliar. But if they have that exposure along the way, then they'll be less rattled by it. Sometimes parents, become a little overprotective because we know our kids, do have some extra needs. And we want to, it's always best to try to allow them to grow. And part of that growth means taking some risks. And if you do run into a problem, just because you tried something, one time, that doesn't mean suddenly stopping, shutting things down and, oh my gosh, that didn't go well, so we're never going to go to the park again. Or I had a family I worked with some time ago who there was some incident that actually happened in a school bathroom. And this parent sort of took the reaction to the extreme to where she would not allow her son to use public restrooms at all. So even by age 16, he was not allowed to use a public restroom, which is very limiting when you start thinking about things like that. And it was, again, based on something that had happened in middle school, a single incident. So, again, if there's a problem, then you try to figure out how to teach a young person to better address that situation or how to prevent that in the future. You prepare them. You don't just try to avoid it. Independent living is critical, even for folks that may never live alone. You want them to still have, again, as much control over their environment and be able to do as much for themselves as they can. So along the way, we want to be making sure our kids are learning the skills to take care of their home. That's where chores come in handy, and you're actually doing them a favor by making them do chores. Teaching them how to cook, being able to take care of their own clothing, manage money. We got way too many folks out here these days that really don't understand how to make a budget and how to keep their spending within their resources. And it's causing a lot of problems. So, you start small with, small amounts of money and sort of, graduate up. Same thing for the, the clothing. You show folks how to use the, washing machine and maybe start off with some easy care clothing and then offer more choices and let them start doing their own sorting. It's a gradual process. It takes time and takes years. And that's why we don't want to wait until the last minute to suddenly, hit them with all this stuff. So you start gradually and be building those skills along the way. Allowing a young person to express themselves. Again, there will be opportunities when people will be asking them for their opinions, or they're going to need to say that they need some extra support or they need accommodations. They've got to get comfortable being able to speak up for themselves. Being able to set goals and make plans, that's all a big part of adulthood. And taking on responsibility, again, as is reasonable. But, again, it's not something that needs to happen all at once. It needs to be sort of a gradual transition. ultimately what we're trying to build is self-determination. Now, there's not one single definition, but if you look it up anywhere, those concepts are going to include these key elements. It's about somebody knowing who they are, knowing what they want, being able to make choices about their life, and having some control, over their own lives. Now for the really fun part, I do have a video queued up here, and let's see if I can get to it. Let's see, we'll start with, I'm not sure that's the first one I want to show you, so let me see. We'll go there. You see, now this little box is getting in my way. All right, folks, this is where the stuff gets really uncomfortable because my other choices are sitting on top there and I can't get to it. All right, we're going to go back to the presentation because this one gets.
I see a video about student involvement in IEP meetings. Is that not what you wanted though?
No, there's one that's labeled self-determination.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and it's sitting there underneath this little black bar. Oddly enough, let's see if there's another window that may let me get there. I'm not sure. Well, I don't want that. That's got somebody's personal information. We don't want to go there. All right.
Angie says if you stop sharing and pick the video, that's
Okay.
just a suggestion.
Hey, I'm all in favor of suggestions, so let me do that. And I can go over here to get more choices. Okay, there we go. Yay, Angie.
Thank you, Angie.
Okay, now I gotta go back and find my. Okay.
And Doreen, when you share, make sure you click the volume box again.
Okay, it should be there. And let me close this little box up here. And let's see what happens. Your music here.
Yep.
Most people don't think they can speak up, but that's not true. We have a voice. We're not a human being and a normal person just like everybody else. That's how God made us.
Nothing is more frustrating than to learn you have a right and to learn how to express and then to be shut down.
When people don't listen to you and don't hear what you want, how does that make you feel?
Sad. Angry, sad, and mad.
Sad and lonely.
Angry.
Kind of sad.
How does it make you feel when people do respect what you say?
Happy.
Glad that people respect what I say. It makes me feel good.
I feel happy, overjoyed. Happy.
Exciting.
Are you comfortable making your own decisions?
I am, because I can become more independent.
For people who don't have a disability, we naturally give our kids an opportunity to pick their clothing. We naturally give them an opportunity to pick their outside interest, their friends, etc. For people with disabilities, in an attempt to protect them out of love, those things are removed.
There are a lot of assumptions made about expectations and about the rights. Also, even about supported decision making, people think that your child is not going to be safe out there floundering on their own.
Self-determination is part of the human experience. It is natural.
They need to be treated like any other child. Presume competence. People will live up to your expectations. And if your expectations are low, then you're selling people short.
They're capable of so much, and getting to the point where they're running the show completely on their own.
You have to have good expectations, and you have to empower your child to have a voice and give them that voice.
Self-advocacy is the counterpart to self-determination. How can you advocate for yourself effectively if you're not self-determined? They complement each other.
I do believe in the dignity of risk, and I do believe that she has a right to make her own choices about her life.
I'm just a special little girl. Just trying to be normal like everybody else.
Who do you want to be in control of your life?
We just want the same thing everyone else does.
How would you feel if someone took all your rights away?
I'll be angry.
It's his life, and we have to give him the dignity of risk. Right?
Correctamundo.
Correctamundo.
And what is the future for you?
Like to have their own voice and like speak up. Don't limit me.
Do you want somebody else to make your decisions for you, or do you want to make your own decisions? And how does that make you feel that you're in charge?
Happy.
Alrighty. Let's see if I can go to new share without having to get into
We
the-
got a comment, Doreen, and I got to say, I haven't heard that phrase dignity of risk before. It's a very thought provoking, and I got a lot of chills going on. So I put just a quick question if anybody else had thoughts they wanted to share in the chat, which, you can move on, but we'll see if anybody else had any reactions to
Was
that.
that what the comment was, that they had
About
not heard?
the phrase, two phrases, dignity of risk and presumed competence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had found myself using that presumed competence sometime last week when I was discussing something, and it's a powerful concept. Is don't assume that people don't know just because they can't share what they know in the same way that you do. Even as we were talking about an individual who was nonverbal, and that doesn't automatically mean that they don't understand stuff just because they can't say it back to you.
Right.
And so you want to assume that they can do, and give them the opportunity to learn.
Like the thing about if you keep the bar low, that's where if you keep the expectations low, that's probably what you'll get, is the lower outcome. If you raise the bar, you have a chance, to higher expectations, better ones. All right, so I think, okay, so we've got our presentation back. Excellent. Okay, poll, that's me. Let me put this poll up for you.
And before we go
And
to the next section, we got a little poll about how well do you know your young person. So if you're a parent, you can be talking about one of your kids. If you're a teacher, or work with young people, just have a young person in mind. And the question is, how do you know where your youth wants to live after high school? These are some yes or no's.
somebody here it comes. Okay, so people are definitely seeing it because it's getting answered. Okay, very good. So we're like about 90 people here with us.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if folks can see all of the questions. I can only see part of them.
I think they just have to scroll down individually. But then if we're going to
There should
share
be, yes, 4
results,
questions.
you might have to scroll. So it's coming in, but it's going to be a little bit slower because we have quite a lot of people and we're working with the 2 languages. So give it another minute, couple of minutes maybe.
Yeah, so far I've got like half the folks have answered.
Oh, we have a tie on question 4. We need some more people to give their input on
To break the tie.
Break the tie at number 4, question 4. And I guess we do have a couple of young people here. If you're answering for yourself, that's great too. And we'll just think of it as if it's you. All right, we're about yeah, we're good. We're 100% answered, Doreen. Do you want me to read this, or do you see it yourself?
If you can show the outcome.
Okay. And I think that
Where's my cursor?
I think that it's probably you're the one that can't really see it. So question number 1 reads, where do you know where your youth wants to live after high school? And we have 69% saying yes, they do, and 31% saying no, not yet. Question number 2, do you know what further education or training they want, if any? 75% of our folks responding said yes, and 25% have said no. Number 3 is, do you know what job or career they are interested in? And again, we're leading with the yeses at 67% and 33% saying no. And we're just going to make that a not yet. Number 4, it's a day-to-day question. Do you know if they can cook a reasonably healthy meal independently? And we are at 47% people saying yes, and 53% saying no, not yet. So
Okay.
that's interesting. And I'm going to take that down now, if that's okay.
Alrighty.
Oh, here's the share results button. Stop. I don't know. It's flipping around. I'm just going to take.
Well, because I clicked something too, and I probably
Got
missed
it. Okay. Okay.
But anyway, obviously we didn't hit 100% on all of them, but you folks probably have young people of different ages. And some of these decisions are going to flux. You know, somebody may think they know what they want to do for a career right now, and they may change their minds. That last question about being able to cook a reasonably healthy meal, as I was putting that in the poll, I was thinking to myself, I wonder if people are going to respond to that as, can the person do this thing, or do you know if they can do it? Yeah, or do you know if they can? And obviously both questions are things that you want to know about, and make sure that those skills are being taught there. But one of the reasons why that all matters, and hopefully I can get this thing to advance. Okay, tap. Okay, those are our questions. Because these things are going to help form their post-secondary goals. You know, you're asking about what they want to do with their lives. But the IEP team having that information, parents having that information, is going to help create IEPs that will prepare the young person for whatever it is that they want to do after they leave school. Now, the IEP team at that point, though, also includes the student. That is a requirement of the law. Now, students are not all going to be able to participate in exactly the same way, but they should be at the table, you know, if at all possible. And we will talk about some different ways that you can help prepare students for participating in IEP meetings. But, you know, your typical IEP team is going to be your parent, special ed teacher, general education teacher, and somebody representing the school district. And like I said, when they hit 14, or the IEP that's going to be in place when they turn 14, from that point forward, the student should be part of the team, especially during those times when they're discussing, you know, transition to adulthood. So their annual review, or any time that the issue is around that. Now, personally, you know, I think it's a great idea to have young people start attending their meetings sooner than that, so that by the time they're required to be there, they've already got some comfort level with being, you know, in the room, and they'll have some idea about what happens in these meetings. All right, so we have ourselves yet another little video about why it's important for students to be involved in their meetings. So let's see if we can accomplish that. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do this thing. It's going to require me to. All right. Are you still seeing the old thing?
We're seeing the slide with a black rectangle on it. I think you might have to do this stop share and, you know, go back and forth again.
I think if I, okay, yeah, because it's at the top. That's the only problem, because my tabs are up there. I just can't get to them.
There we go.
The box.
Oop.
Okay, hey, still here. Get my little thing down. All right, so here, swap up videos, importance of student participation.
Funny that somebody put in chat student-led IEP meetings, because that's, I think, what we're about to see, right?
Well, we'll see what we see.
We hope.
All right, where's my guy? Here, you. No, that's the wrong. Well, it says that, but I got a different video, so this should be the right. Important to student participation. All right.
Student involvement. Okay.
Okay, where are we at with my, here we go. Start.
Because if you're not heard, then you're overlooked and you're just forgotten about. So I think you should speak your mind when you need to.
That IEP is for you. It's not for me. It's for me to help you. It's my prescription for you. But that IEP is specially designed to help you and with you in mind. So if you're uncomfortable with it, or if you feel like it needs to be changed, then you need to speak up and say, no, I think this should be done, or I really need this.
I think they should be involved because their parents aren't always at school when they need help. The kids should be there saying, this is what I need help on. This is what I need to get my work done. And their parents don't know what they do at school, so they need to be there to tell them.
Really, we're just the people that care about you. We're your support group, but it's really your meeting and it's really all about you. And if you're not there and your voice isn't present, we're missing the most important part.
Do you go to your IEP meetings?
Every one of them.
Tell me why.
Because it's my life and I don't want someone else to run it for me.
Who best to determine what goes on in your IEP than you, the student? I mean, you know more about yourself than anyone, more than your parents, more than your teachers, guidance counselors. Only you know how you feel and what works best for you.
Uh-oh. All right, I don't think we were quite finished with that, but it sort of did an abrupt stop, and I don't want to start something else because otherwise it's gonna become. No, but if I go play, but I want to start over.
Is it important for people to listen to what you
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got the point on that one, but let's go here. Back to our presentation. Okay. Out of the mouths of babes, having the words come from our young people saying that they appreciate the fact that they're the ones that are experiencing this stuff and certainly are in the best position to say what works for them and what's not going to work. So they need to be at the table. So, okay, we don't want them sitting there like deer in the headlights though. So we need to prepare young folks to attend their IEP meetings and participate in a meaningful kind of way. So this is an audience participation question here. Do you have any ideas about how we can help prepare students to actively participate in their IEP meeting? And you can put your responses in the chat and we'll see what ideas folks come up with.
So that was a question that was asked and I knew it was coming. So I didn't answer that one for the group because I know that's what we're talking about. But here's our first thought on it. I always ask for us, meaning the adults, to talk first, and then my son comes in and participates so that he doesn't hear the stuff of grades and get sad. So and that was kind of my personal approach. I sort of chose the part of the meeting in discussion with my daughter about what the different parts are and which part she would like to participate in. Some of and that's an individual choice for sure. So we've got other comments coming in, really good ones, I think, and explain what will happen, role play, make a plan beforehand. So kind of prep, not expecting your student, your child just to walk in. I mean, it's hard enough for us adults to always understand what's going on in those meetings. So helping them prepare and picture it, role play is beautiful. I think that's a brilliant idea. Anybody else? Let's see, we've got some more things coming. Practice, have an outline before. So a lot of advanced preparation. My son would participate in the goals Ask them to write what they want to say, or have them be present for part of the meeting, talk about it beforehand. Preparing a presentation for the meeting, that's a fun idea. So, and a lot of a theme that I'm hearing is preparation, and of course tailoring it to your child's interests and their ability to participate.
Mhm.
And as parents, you have a better feel for what that is.
Mhm.
Let me see if there's anything else. Practice, take notes. We have perhaps an educator here that says that they have given students a guide sheet ahead of time so they could lead an IEP meeting. All good stuff. I know when I talk to folks on the phone and they're not sure their kids want to participate or have maybe courage or a skill set, to participate. We talk about maybe making a video or having them using whatever their talent is, whether they are more comfortable to speak or into a recording, or to draw something or create a presentation. There's all different creative ways.
Well, we've got some ideas here, and some of them are going to be ones that people already mentioned. So that's
Somebody here is identifying that one of the challenges is that the meetings can be long, and attention span of the child, it has to be taken into consideration. Certainly true.
So in terms of the, preparation in advance, is, again, if you're encouraging the independence and self-advocacy and communication skills along the way, then those skills can be put to use during the meetings. Having them have an understanding about their disability. A lot of parents are uncomfortable discussing their child's disability for whatever reason. But there's no reason why everybody else in the room should know more about that issue than they do. If it's got a name, then name it. If it doesn't have a name, then we can just talk about how things impact them and where their strengths are and what kind of things they have difficulty with. Most of the time, kids know if they're having a hard time with stuff, and they know if they don't read as well as their peers, and classmates. So this is not going to be a surprise. What will be helpful to them maybe is knowing that there may be a reason why these things are challenges. That could actually come as a relief. So, having some of those conversations, in a low-keyed way, and it's really easier if you start young and it's just kind of a matter of fact, in part of life, and you never have to have that big discussion like, hey, we're gonna have that sex talk, let's have a disability talk. If it just sort of weaves its way into your daily life, then it's not, not that big a deal. But that is important that they have some, concept there. Explain how the IEP process works and what to expect. Ask them about their preferences, interests, their strengths and challenges, and their goals before the meeting, because folks ask those questions in the meeting. It'd be nice to give them a chance to think about it and maybe come up with some answers so that they're, again, not put on the spot. There's plenty of different transition questionnaires that have been designed. Some of them are more complicated than others. But, if you're an educator, you can try, sending one home for the parents to walk through with their child. That'll be enlightening to the parents more than likely, and they may learn some things about their kid and about, oh gosh, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe we do need to start working on them understanding what medications they take, or some other areas that maybe have been overlooked. But that will allow both of them to come into the meeting, better prepared to participate and share information. As far as, actually, would participate, if they're prepared, the answers to questions that we expect to happen, have them write statements that can be read during a meeting. These things came up. The creating scripts and doing role play.
It looks like we got it, huh?
Yeah, create PowerPoint presentation. So we talked about those. Find and use pictures. I think you mentioned that one. about what they want to do. Again, not everybody is equally verbal, but they can recognize what it is that they want when they see it, and being able to let the pictures do the talking. Again, that transition questionnaire, I don't know how to show them on both lists, but it did. So anyway, but those are, good ideas to do things in advance, again, so that when we get to the meeting, things are, going to flow more smoothly. Now, as we mentioned, there's a section of the IEP that covers secondary transition. And, so you check the box, yes, the student's 14 years of age. They ask who's providing information, their course of study. And I think we will attend to some of these items separately. Let me flip my paper here. All right, and we'll start with the course of study question, because that's sort of a major decision. And usually that gets determined at the end of 8th grade when students are first going into high school. North Carolina has 2 different courses of study that lead to a North Carolina high school diploma. And there'll be some students that will leave school with a graduation certificate, because their disability won't allow them to meet the graduation requirements for either of those courses of study. The Future Ready Core is the one that all students who don't have disabilities and most of the students who do are on. And at this point, it's pretty much designed to be kind of a college prep, because the students actually, if they complete all those requirements and follow the standard math sequence there, then they will satisfy the admission requirements for the state university system. That's what that was sort of intended to do. Then we have the Future Ready occupational course of study, which was designed for a very small sliver of kids with disabilities, very specific group of kids. It wasn't designed to prepare folks to go to college, more for people that are likely to enter the workforce directly after school. But there's nothing that says that somebody who has a diploma from an occupational course of study can't take classes at the community college, because your requirement, for the community college is that you're a high school graduate. And these students will be high school graduates, so they certainly can continue their education. But again, it's not designed to be college prep per se. And as we mentioned, the students that are on the extended content standards, where they're learning basically extensions to the same stuff that other kids are learning. So they're going to have, science and social studies and math and language arts, but at a level that they're capable of understanding, because these are kids with the most significant cognitive disabilities, and those students will work on life skills while they're in school, in addition to those academics, and will leave with an exit document that's a graduation certificate instead of a diploma. Okay, but we'll make that decision. And it's easier to sort of, basically, if we're sort of straddled between, say, the occupational course of study and the regular Future Ready, most of the time folks would say, okay, let's err on a side of giving the kid a chance, at the regular course of study, because then they can shift, over to occupational. It's going to be a whole lot harder to shift up, so if they start off with occupational, it'll be more challenging to try to then move into the regular Future Ready course. So we're not totally stuck in it, but you do want to be very thoughtful and try to make the best decision that you can. Now, the areas that the student's going to be asked about their post-secondary goals includes, future education and training. Are they interested in continuing their learning, formal learning, tech school, college, whatever. What about employment, independent living? And every, young person is going to have their own dreams and their own, goals for their life. If they want to continue to school, you've got a variety of options. You got your typical 4-year college university. You've got, technical schools, you got barber schools and beauty schools, and schools that specialize in a particular art schools, particular area or career field. The community colleges are a wonderful resource, even for students who hope to ultimately plan to go to a 4-year college university. They can get that first couple of years out, under their belt a whole lot cheaper by going to a community college and then transferring over. That's a great way to sort of reduce that student debt. But the community colleges offer degree programs, they have diploma programs, and they have certificate programs. Some of them are, largely academic. Some of them are specific to certain careers and teaching job skills. They also teach basic skills. So folks that want to continue working on their reading skills and things like that can continue to their study at the community colleges. And sometimes folks just take courses at the community college because it's something that they're interested in. They offer classes in landscaping and, who knows what. You're never too old, you never stop learning, and never, too old to continue to learn. So even if folks aren't necessarily aiming at a degree, taking individual courses is a way to stay sharp and stay interested and stay engaged, with other people as well. And we get increasing opportunities for students that have intellectual and developmental disabilities across the country. In the Carolinas, we've got, several different programs, and every once in a while you look and there's a new one. And those can be found at the same place you'd be looking up information on regular colleges. Somewhere on one of these slides, I mentioned the College Foundation of North Carolina. They have a listing of all of these programs as well. And each one is designed differently, so they're each unique. The programs aren't all the same. Some of them are housed at community colleges, some of them are housed at four-year universities. But that's an interesting thing to explore. And if that's something that you think your young person will be interested in doing, I'd say look into it sooner rather than later, so that you can understand the steps that need to happen and also do that preparation work so that they're, ready to be successful when, if they are able to get into programs. They tend to be very competitive, especially the ones that are housed at the universities. There's a lot more interest than there are spots for the students. So that's another reason for, sorting it out a little bit early.
Doreen, can I jump in for a quick second?
Sure.
So we're getting a little bit of activity in the chat about how decisions are made. I think that was going back to the course of study. And I've entered into chat that we have a series of fact sheets that we will attach to the email that kind of describe these basic options, and that these decisions are made by the IEP team with parent participation. We are getting specific questions, and what I'd like to say is, if you have a question about your own family's experience, please do reach out to us at ECAC so that you can have that one-on-one assistance that Doreen described in the beginning of our time together. Because we know that the details matter, and that sometimes you want to talk it through in a way that we can't do in this setting. So please know that anything that we kind of throw out there to you tonight that you have an individual questions and concerns about, that's when you could call us or email us. And I believe that all that information will be on one of the closing slides, of what our email addresses and our phone number and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So thank you for your continued interest, and just want to throw that out there.
Okay. So when it comes to employment and you're asking the young person what it is they want to do, in terms of careers, sometimes the issue comes up about, well, what if their job choice is not very realistic? You may have somebody with a intellectual disability who says they want to be a veterinarian, for instance. Well, getting into vet school is harder than getting into med school. So, that's probably not going to happen for them. But we don't have to immediately throw cold water on those dreams. One way to address that is to ask them, what is it about that job that appeals to them? And try to sort of get a feel for that, because there may be other careers, other jobs that offer that same benefit, or, rather it's the work setting that appeals to them, who they're working with, whatever it is about that, there may be ways that they can get that same experience in a different setting, doing a job that is doable for them. And I got a perfect example of that. And Karen, you're going to have to keep me honest with the time thing, because I have no time perception, that. Okay. But, some time ago, I heard somebody explain, it was a young man, again, who did have an intellectual disability, who said he wanted to be an accountant. And when somebody asked him why he wanted to be an accountant, what he told him is that, well, he wanted to have an office with his name on a nameplate on front of it. He wanted to wear a shirt and tie to work and have a pocket protector with pencils in it, because, with ink pens and pencils that he saw his, accountants. Apparently he's visited accounting offices with his parents or something and decided he liked that job. But really, it wasn't the job itself. It was the trappings of the job that appealed to him. And ultimately, he wound up getting a job, as a mail clerk for some company. But he had his own desk with a nameplate, and he was able to wear his shirt with the, pocket protector and all that stuff. And he was happy as a lark because he got what he needed. That those were the pieces of the job that really mattered to him. But there was, it found work that was doable, that offered him the things that really were important to him. So, we don't need to say no right away, just find out a little bit more. Now, one of my favorite resources is the Occupational Outlook Handbook. It's something that's put out by the government. They list every job known to man. And they'll tell you what kind of, well, first off, they describe the work as well as the working conditions, typical salary ranges, but also whether or not that's a field that's going to be growing, or is it expected to be reducing, because there's no point training for a job that's not going to exist in 10 years. What I like best about it, though, is that it'll, okay, and again, tell you what kind of training and background you need, education you need to, for that kind of work, is that it'll lead you to other jobs. So if you start off with one particular career, it'll say related professions. And then you can go look those up. It's almost like a tree, that has different branches on it, and you follow those branches out. And so even if you start off with, say, that veterinarian job, eventually you can probably get to one that is related, to that line of work, but maybe very much within the reach of that student. So that's a good way of kind of sorting that out. I mean, people only know what they know. And so most of us really couldn't name every job that exists, frankly, and certainly young people who had even less life experience aren't going to know every job that's out there. So it's a way of just opening their eyes too about different possibilities that maybe they didn't even know existed.
Remember that feeling when somebody would ask you when you're a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And be like, well, what are the choices? So this is a great way to get a better feel for what the choices are, especially for some of our kids that they can't create those thoughts just out of their heads. So wonderful, wonderful recommendation.
Yeah.
Doreen, it is almost 7, and I know we have till 7:30, and so I just wanted to.
Okay, well, I'll pick up the pace a little bit here. Okay. So once we've sort of got those goals, then the next question is, what skills are they going to need it to basically reach those goals? So what skills do they need to be involved in a community, to work toward their career goals? If they're going to take on some continued education, what do they need to be able to do or know in order to be successful in those kind of settings? And how to communicate and get along with other people, because regardless of what they do, they're going to have to interact with other folks on some level. And so we want to be building those skills. And those are the kind of things that we start targeting in terms of IEP goals. So those measurable annual goals that have been hanging out on a kid's IEP, all this time can and should start to include skills that are designed to prepare that student for some of those post-secondary goals that they have and adult life in general. And there's a place to actually indicate that an annual goal has been chosen because of that it's related to a transition goal. So, as kids get older, you want to reassess their priorities, think about the fact that, okay, there's only so many years left in school. You want to be spending the time and energy working on the things that are going to make the most difference, in their lives. So, target those critical skills, things like communication skills. I think you always need to continue to work on, because that opens up so many doors and gives people so much more options and ability to get their own needs met, and things like that. So you got some what we call functional skills that will always need to be worked on. But then there may be some other things where we look and you go, okay, we've been working on addition and subtraction since the kids started, way back in elementary school. We're now in high school and still aren't good at it. Then maybe we need to start teaching this person how to use a calculator, and how to recognize that they're getting a wrong answer. So there needs to be some real thoughtfulness to making sure that all the goals are relevant skills, that are meaningful skills that are going to, again, have some long-term benefit.
So I'm sorry, just one more thing. I have a daughter with a math learning disability, and making change is just never going to happen. And many of the families that I talk with, when we talk about the real use of money, we're really thinking about, like, ATM cards and various things. So that's the practical focus on real skills, not taking up time on outdated skills or things that are a little too.
I mean, who carries coins anymore? And we still got kids in high school that are working on identifying coins and such. The worst they can go wrong buying something is going to be 99 cents. So that's not going to change anybody's life. So I'd say stick to the dollars and, round it up and let some of that stuff go. Again, the soft skills are some of the things that really do make a big difference. Again, regardless of what they're doing with their lives, being able to communicate, being able to plan, organize some things, the social skills, being able to maintain some kind of self-control, be able to function. All of us face challenges from time to time when we have to learn how to deal with them in a halfway appropriate way, that's not going to cause even more problems. So those things need to be front of mind. I once heard somebody say that really social skills and being able to get along with folks is the single biggest factor in terms of a person with a disability being able to be successfully employed. If people like you, your coworkers will help you, they will make allowances for things. If you make yourself, if you're super annoying and can't get along with people, then it doesn't matter how competent you are, you're going to have a hard time. So, it's just vitally important and should, again, stay kind of front and center.
Getting yourself up out of bed, if mom's not there to shake you, or to remind you, getting how to use an alarm, get down into the nitty gritty, what's going to make a successful day, and start thinking like that. Doreen, I'm not sure if this is the right time for this question, but let me just share it with you that it's out there. What about if the disability does not allow the kid to go into college or into work? What are the resources available for things like assisted living facilities? And what is the role of high school in the situation, the role of high school in the IEP goals in a situation like that? Is this the time or place?
I'm not, the resource part will come up a little bit later.
Okay.
But as far as the roles of the IEP and the goals, again, communication skills are going to be helpful regardless of where you live, how you live, and whatnot. Trying to help people be as independent as it can be with their own personal care, is going to be important. So even if you're in a group living situation, this is hopefully people can take this as it's well intended, is there's a certain dignity to being able to wipe your own rear end when you go to the bathroom. So that dignity in every little thing that somebody's able to do for themselves, that they're not having to rely on somebody else to do, gives them that little bit more control over their lives, and every little bit of that makes a difference, in terms of just quality, their quality of life. So that's what you want to continue to work on, is again, building those independent living skills and those things that are going to help them, again, function as independently as they can and have as much control over their lives as they can, regardless of the situation.
Right.
This onion rules don't have a lot of time to expend, but what a lot of folks don't have a good grasp of is basically, I'll start over. A lot of young people don't really make a big distinction between, who's really a friend and who's just somebody you may know some person, their name, but you don't know anything else about them. Every kid that's in their class is not a friend. And being able to make some distinction about how much information they share, about how much you trust somebody, do you go off, walk away, get in the car with people under which conditions, so having them sort of be able to categorize folks to understand, okay, well, family are the people that you can trust no matter what, they're your go-to people, and your really closest friends may fall in that heading, and then you get other people that are real friends that you can trust a little bit more. And then you got acquaintances, well, yeah, them, the neighbor up the street, but you're not going to tell them all your personal business. And things like that. And then strangers, you don't want to tell them anything, pretty much other than I want the fourth floor when you're in an elevator. But you can practice them categorizing by maybe color coding, and you can, say, okay, Mr. Jones, which ring does he fall in? Well, I think he's a purple person. Okay, yeah, that's good. Or why does so-and-so fit into what category? So again, trying to be halfway concrete, give them a visual of how they can make these distinctions about engaging with people, outside the home. And that may lessen some of that vulnerability that a lot of parents worry about. Again, if we got we got the goals. We're going to look at the transition services to help achieve those goals, and they fall under several different headings. You have instruction. There's going to be, take a look at related services and community experiences. Under instruction, obviously the core curriculum stuff is, learning how to read, how to do whatever, basic academic skills are going to be helpful. But also look at elective courses that may be in line with somebody's interest. The career technical education classes that again are going to be geared toward certain careers. And some of them again are going to be in line with independent living stuff. There's career technical education classes that called foods, where people are learning about food and nutrition and how to prepare foods. That's something that's of their personal use, even if that's not what they want to do for a career. Driver's education falls under heading of instruction, and it may be very specific skills that they need to learn. When we look at related services, think about, this is where the picture kind of changes a little bit. It's how is this person going to function in a community and as an adult? When they're younger, you're thinking about, well, they can access the curriculum. Well, they can do the stuff that we expect them to do, at school. So if a kid can pick up a pencil and, and write halfway legibly, that's good enough. So they'll stop the occupational therapy. Well, when we start thinking about what they're going to be doing out in the community, there may be a reason to reassess that and maybe, do another assessment to see whether or not it's time to bring in, the OT back in, or the speech or the PT, physical therapist, whatever. There's a whole lot of different kinds of related services, orientation and mobility, early on they're navigating the school building, but how do they navigate the community? So it just takes on a whole different scale and scope. And that may, again, cause some of those services to be brought back onto that IEP at this juncture, that may have been, oh, he doesn't need it anymore early on. Community experiences, we talked about exposing to a variety of settings and different situations and people. Those are all growth opportunities. Employment development is another heading for transition services, daily living skills, vocational evaluation. Under employment development, you want to explore different careers, and that can be just talking to people that, have those jobs. There's videos you can find online where folks talk about their work and what's involved with that. Being able to actually shadow people in the workplace. There's internships available to high school students. And your guidance counselors may be folks that you can find out about those things. Learning, again, skill trainings, and continuing to, again, look at soft skills, because those are all part of, again, learning how to function in the workplace. Daily living skills, a lot of that stuff is going to get addressed at home, but some of it are things that will spill over into activities that, can be addressed at school or that are actually practiced and carried out at school. Vocational evaluation, there's a lot of folks that really don't know what they want to do, in terms of career or jobs. And evaluations can be done to help them sort out some of their career interests and maybe help them match up what their skills and aptitudes are along those interests, to maybe narrow it down some to, help formulate some sort of a plan or goal. The interesting thing about, transition, this transition period is that it's a whole group effort. While schools do have a legal responsibility for, in terms of IEP and things like that, is, it's all hands on deck. There's going to be a role for, let me step here. There's parts of it that, the parents and the family are going to be responsible for. There may be other community agencies, service providers. There may be things that the church may have a role if you have an active church. If you got somebody who's involved in some, in scouting, there's no telling, whatever their interests are, there may be a role for somebody to play to help move our young person along. So it's not, again, just getting away from the tunnel vision of, oh, everything falls on the school, because even some of those transition activities and services, on that IEP, it's going to say who's responsible. And there's a place, where it may say student is responsible for that, or it may say parent. So just kind of be prepared for that, is that you may have to step up as well. But understanding too is that once they leave school, special education law ends, and their right to a free, appropriate public education is over once they graduate or age out of school, which in North Carolina means through age 21. So if there's any, schools or programs that they want to participate in, they have to apply to them and meet whatever eligibility criteria that's been set. We do have a couple of federal laws that still protect them against discrimination. You know, we got our Americans with Disabilities Act, you know, which, you know, guarantees access to things and it has different sections of it that pertain to different aspects of life, as well as, you know, transportation and public service and government, you know, entities, et cetera. Section 504 is something that covers and protects kids while they're in school, but also out of school. So any federal program, you know, has to comply with Section 504, or any, you know, program that gets federal funds. That includes our colleges and universities, because they, and community college, if they take federal financial aid, which almost all of them do, then they have to comply with Section 504. So that's really going to be the law that gets them an accommodation plan, you know, if they need one at the college level. But it's important to know that the students have to document their disability, and they basically have to request the accommodations. You know, the colleges don't have to come to them and say, hey, we think you're having trouble. Do you need some help? It's on them. And that's why, again, we try to emphasize that whole get them comfortable with their within their own skin, and talking about the disability, but also asking for what they need, you know, so that they're able to do that when they're going to be called upon to do that. You know, the ADA, you know, allows them to get workplace accommodations, but they're going to have to ask for them. So, you know, one of our tasks along the way is learning about the different adult services. Talk to other parents. You know, if your student or child is getting some other services outside the home, you know, you can talk to those providers about, hey, well, what happens here? What can we do, you know, with this? Some of the questions, you know, that it popped up, you know, regardless of whether or not the person's going to go into employment or whatever, it's okay, what happens next? So these folks that are working in that field may have some insight that they can share and give you some sense about what time frame you need, how far ahead you need to be doing certain things. There are local support groups and organizations that might have resource lists, or certainly people that can answer questions. A lot of school districts will offer transition fairs, and you may have some community resource fairs. The managed care organizations are a really important entity that folks need to know about, especially people that have really significant disabilities. There's like 5 of them, I think, that cover multi-county regions. And they're basically kind of like the front door to some of these extended support services for folks, particularly with intellectual and developmental disabilities. You folks may have heard about the waiver. You know, it used to be the CAP program, and now it's the Innovations Waiver, where people can get access to extended array of support paid for by Medicaid. And what gets waived, you know, when they say a waiver, is that it's not based on household income or anything like that. So the normal Medicaid guidelines don't really apply. It's based on, you know, their needs. Unfortunately, right now we have a long waiting list for those services. So that's one of those things where you want to find out who your managed care organization is. And if you have a child who is likely to need ongoing support, you know, throughout their adulthood, making contact with them now to get them on that waiting list. You know, there recently was a court order that came down that's ordered North Carolina to basically start working on making that waiting list disappear. We'll see how that goes, but it should certainly at least shorten it to where people aren't being told, well, maybe 10 years before you get anything. Hopefully that won't continue to be the case. Other resources to mention, Social Security Administration. This really didn't go with anything else, so I just kind of slapped it on the page. There are individuals who were denied or found not eligible for SSI as a child because it was based on household income. Once they turn 18, it's going to be based on their individual income. And so there's a lot of folks who will qualify at that point in time who maybe didn't earlier. Your guidance counselor is going to be a good resource. I mentioned the College Foundation of North Carolina. They have information to help folks shop for colleges, apply, and pay for, so they have information about financial aid, but also those programs for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities as well. You can get that from the same website. Anybody who's looking for financial aid needs to know about the FAFSA. That's your sort of front door. Most colleges require that just even to determine how much aid is required and how much they can expect to come from the family. So even if you don't actually get direct money from the federal government, you still need to complete the FAFSA in order to for the schools to consider you for financial aid. All right, Voc Rehabilitation is a real important player. They will be there for folks throughout the lifespan. They basically work with individuals to help them get and maintain employment. And recently, they've been given some leeway to help people advance in their careers. It used to be once you got a job, you were good, but now they can actually help support people as they're trying to advance in those careers. So if they need additional training or additional education, they can still help, through that process. But we'll start with looking at some of the pre-employment transition services that are available while, young people still in high school. And that includes things like getting them ready for the workplace with soft skills and work adjustment and how to look for jobs, self-advocacy, we've discussed, job exploration, learning about different jobs and opportunities out there, actual internships and shadowing. So learning about jobs from being in how to do work from being in work settings, and counseling for post-secondary, whether it's education or whatever they're going to be pursuing post-secondary, is helping, talk them through it and think about what those options are and what their preferences are and those kind of things. Those fall under heading of the pre-employment transition services.
It might be the way my brain works, but I find it a little confusing that it's not only about going straight to work. It also includes the education, like it shows here, post-secondary counseling and things. So it is both education and eventual employment, or it's right to employment.
VR offers a wide array of services, and certainly
Right.
this list, emphasizes the things that are available to them while they're still in school. Once they're out of school, then they have other options for services that include, basically, there's really not going to be a very limited list, because they work kind of the way special education works, is sort of on an as needed basis. And there's going to be people that need some things that are very different than somebody else, but they can do evaluations. They can assist with, with further training. If people need, physical assistance, somebody may need a ramp, built on their house so that they can get in and out in order to go to work. Any number of things.
Keeping the job, which is,
Yeah,
like you pointed out, it's not only getting it and then they're done with you, but right.
You can always cycle back. So basically, again, once they, working out there, maybe 10 years later, you can always come back to VR. All right, so we have a place for Q&A.
Okay.
What's our time check, Karen?
We have about right around 15 minutes, 14, and we just need a minute at the end for the survey. So we're good. I think we're good.
Well, we hate this age of majority thing, because that's a big,
right. Important. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll kind of look through this, and then we'll try to get to as many questions as we can, or which ones that are clearly of general interest. At age 18 in North Carolina, students people reach age of majority, and that's when they're legally considered an adult. All the rights that parents have had up to that point in time now transfer to that student, especially within the school realm. And both the student and parent are notified when the student is 17 that this is coming. That's to give y'all time to either prepare or to figure out what you need to do. If you have a young person who is clearly not going to be able to make those decisions, then there's things that can be done to offer some support in that direction. So when it comes to school decisions, here are some ways that you can help support your young person even after they turn 18. They will then have the authority to sign a consent for release of information to make it possible for you to talk to the school and the school to talk to you. So it won't be this automatic, oh, we can't talk to you anymore, because your kid's now an adult. Just like parents could invite, anybody that they wanted to attend IEP meetings, the students can invite who they want, including their parents, to IEP meetings. And again, if we got a student who is very strongly suspected of not being able to make, important decisions on their behalf, there's actually a process in our, North Carolina policies that the school can initiate to have them assess first to see if they need an educational representative. But if it's determined that they do, then one can be appointed. And certainly if they have an active engaged parent, oftentimes that parent will be the one appointed as their educational representative. And so they would then have the right to make educational decisions on that person's behalf. So it's sort of like guardianship, but just for education. And you aren't going through the courts. It's strictly a process with the school system. When you hit an adult, there's responsibilities that come along with those rights. You have a right to vote, but there's also responsibility to go register for the draft, regardless of the severity of a person's disability. They still have to register for the draft. At this point in time, I think we're still just men. But they have a right to enter the contracts and, take on debt. And one thing that I was shocked at, I'll just say that, is that even if somebody is determined to be not capable of making major life decisions and they are appointed a guardian, they still can go get married in the state of North Carolina without their guardian's consent. So I was kind of mind blown because I'm thinking about major life decisions. That's about as big as it gets, so those things were kind of inconsistent, but just so you know, obviously, adults, have more rights to choose where they want to live, but they have a responsibility to obey laws. So they don't, get to just run around like wild people. And just sort of hierarchy, run quickly through, there's a whole array of options for to provide assistance as needed. And most young people, regardless of whether or not they have a disability, still rely on their parents for assistance, with decision making and other kinds of support. So, those natural supports should still be there for them. And you can have a more structured, supported decision making process. We've got a whole group of folks that are working on having supported decision making recognized in North Carolina in some formal kind of way, where there'd be paperwork associated with it and all that. We're not quite there yet, but power of attorney is a way of the person can voluntarily give you authority to make decisions on their behalf, and they can specify what arenas that authority extends to. So whether it's just going to be medical, or is it just educational, or is it financial, they can say what it is that they want you to have authority to make decisions about. If you're ever at odds with the individual, then their will prevails, because it's them. And they also can voluntarily revoke that power of attorney. So they give you that authority, but they can take it back. But if you, got a good working relationship with your young person, then typically that's not going to be a problem. Representative payee is a Social Security thing for individuals that, aren't really capable of managing, their finances. Somebody can be appointed to manage their funds for them. And again, that would not involve going to court or anything. You just kind of have to convince Social Security that that's something that's necessary. They make their own judgment call about it. Guardianship, whether it's limited or full guardianship, does involve going to the court. Your clerk of court's office in your county is where you would file a petition. There's a hearing, somebody gets, person gets appointed a guardian ad litem to protect their rights, during this process. And effectively the task of the court is to determine whether or not the individual is capable of making major life decisions in various arenas, because they may say, yes, they're capable of that sort of personal day-to-day stuff, but maybe not the financial. So, they may be appointed just a limited guardian. And for those who need, somebody to basically make major life decisions in most aspects of their life, then that'd be a full guardianship. But it's two separate steps there. You decide that they need a guardianship, and then there's another decision about who's going to serve in that role. But all of that we just had a webinar yesterday that went deeply into this stuff, but I did want to not overlook this since it's really important.
Right. And we have I've been putting in chat that we have the fact sheets that we're sending afterwards. Will cover this topic and provide some places where you get more information. So is that the last?
Well, you can start reading slides. I'm just gonna hop through these because these things I talked about.
Yeah, they'll receive these. And you did it, you've covered it. Yeah.
But just wrap up, but also the big picture here is all young people should be taught and encouraged to be as independent as possible. And learning and maturity are a journey. It's not a destination. It's not like they hit 18 and they won't stop learning. They hit 21, they stop learning. So you don't want to make, this is my personal opinion, I'll state it as such, is you don't want to make a lifelong decision based on where somebody is at one stage of their life. You look at that 18-year-old and you're going, oh my God, they can't do this stuff now. Well, who's to say they're not going to be able to do that 5 years from now or 10 years from now? So, be thoughtful about, offering people as much support as they need, but don't go any further than you need in terms of restricting their rights and options to control their own lives. Okay. I'll stop talking here.
It's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot. Yeah. And it's all really important. We have had great conversation in chat. So in addition to all the content from you, Doreen. So it's been a really good, I think it's been a really productive experience. We have people making suggestions to each other, which is always really, really wonderful and fun. I don't know that we have questions hanging out unanswered necessarily, but so why don't, rather than me going back through them, how about if we take a minute or two to see if there's a specific important topic that is not, something for one-on-one assistance, to clarify something Doreen has said. But I'm also going to pop up the poll so that we use our time really well. So it's kind of two things at once. Well, here comes the poll. And then if there's anything last minute, please do put that into chat or Q&A. We will be sending the follow-up email. Can't promise it'll be tomorrow, but it'll be within a couple of days with the different materials to kind of back up some of these individual topics. So, and including the presentations. So please don't worry. There was a lot. It is a huge topic. So you will have backup coming. I just hope you kind of are able to absorb how broad the topic is, some of the really key concepts. What was it? The risk of dignity and looking at
the dignity of risk.
The dignity of risk. I'm sorry. Oh gosh. And the broad look at the life of a young person with a disability, as well as the importance of their input into their own lives and how empowering it is to be asked and to have that input into your own life. We all want this to the greatest degree possible for everyone. We appreciate your thank yous and your compliments.
Well, thank you folks for taking time to,
Yes.
attend and at least start on this journey.
So
As
many
Karen said,
people.
we could take a whole weekend talking about different aspects of transition to adulthood and still not cover everything. So this was just kind of to do an overview, and depending on where your young person is or where you are, professionally, some of it may be of more interest, than others, but it's critical at the end of the day, because, this is where the rubber meets the road. You have these young people in school. We do the best job we can to educate them, but ultimately they're going to go out there and face the adult world, and it's our task to prepare them best we can for that.
All right. I will put our emails in the chat. And if there were 90 of you all, so if we get a bunch of emails, please be patient with us getting back to you. But I think that's a real reasonable thing to do at this point. And if you filled out the poll and you're ready to go, please enjoy your evening. And do think of us for the future. You're on our mailing list, and we'll be doing more things like this on a wide range of topics. So we hope to have you with us again another time.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much. Have a great evening. Okay. Great job, Doreen. You want to turn the recording on? There we go. Okay. I got to say to the interpreters that I probably did not slow down like you asked me to.
This is saying recording, so did it stop?
I would.
Okay. Stop. Recording. I hope it stopped. I'm not sure I want to stop. Yes, I'm sure.